Good morning, everybody. Well, we're back. We're back doing what we like best. We just hope you like what you're listening to. If you're new to the show, you're about to have, I would say, an exciting experience because there's nothing like this show, as far as I know, anywhere on radio or anywhere else. We're a show designed specifically to help you buy or lease, maintain, or repair your car without being taken advantage of. And we represent, we have a car dealership. We are not an infomercial. I rush to add that. We're not trying to sell you anything, but we happen to own a car dealership. But we're consumer advocates. And I say we've got Rick Kearney, we've got Nancy Stewart, we got my son Stu Stewart, we got Jonathan Cantor. We're a team that has been doing this for 20 years to make it safe. I hate to use the word safe because that sounds like physical harm could come upon you. But when you go into a car dealership, and it's been this way since Henry Ford came up with the mass production assembly line theory of production that had to go to retail outlets to sell cars. For 100 years now, car dealers have been taking advantage of you, the buyer. And it's been going on for so long that you get used to it. And the regulators, that's even worse, the regulators are getting used to it. So we're here to stir things up. We want to stir the pot and get people a little bit riled up so we can change things. Now, the good news is that history is changing things too, and technology is changing things, and there's a lot of good things in motion where I'm confident that the way that you buy a car today, or certainly you did 20, 30 years ago, is changing radically. And that's another thing that we love about this show is it is so, well, you watch the news, you read the newspaper, you do your online research, and you find out that the information explosion, I'll use that term, with the internet and artificial intelligence and quantum computing, the information flow is so enormous, you can't stay on top of it. So this show is, we do a little bit to help you. It's all about you because we can't look inside your head and tell you what you need to know. You know what you need to know about buying a car or leasing a car or maintaining a car. So if you contact the show, we're live right now. We're live here in North Palm Beach, Florida. We'll be at this station right here from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be yakking, but we'd rather hear you yak. We'd rather hear you call the show. So your regular listeners get tired of this, I know, because we give the number out a lot. We have to because we have a lot of new listeners. So please consider writing this down or memorizing it. We'll be giving this number out often. It's the main number, right? And that number is 877 960 9960. That's 877 960 9960. Now, we have 5 lines coming into the studio in North Palm Beach, Florida, and we try to take the calls that come in on 877-960-9960 ASAP because we have a limited number of lines, and we don't want you to wait, and your time is very valuable to you, obviously, and to us also. And what you want to know, the question you ask, is the same question that's on the minds of thousands of other people. And some people just don't have the time, or maybe they're a little bit timid about calling the show. So please consider writing this number down, 877-960-9960. Now, Nancy Stewart, my co-host, she's sitting right across from me right now in the studio. She has a laptop computer, and we have Jeremy in the control room here that will be notifying her when the phone rings. When you call 877-960-9960, she will throw a rock at me or smile or do something. She'll get me to stop talking. And by the way, Rick Kearney is in the studio with us too. My son Stu, he should be here in about 15, 20 minutes. He's run a little bit late this morning here in South Florida. Rainy day in South Florida. Rick Kearney, by the way, is, I don't give him enough credit. I don't talk enough about the fact that the glory is always with new cars. New cars are a lot of fun to talk about. I mean, Lamborghinis and McLarens and, cars are fun and they're sexy and they're fun to talk about, especially new cars. But the fact of the matter is your time and concern and expense, danger, a lot of other stuff are associated with just owning an old car. And today, an old car is redefined. It used to be an old car was 3 years old. Now an old car is 15, 20 years old. And I have to say, I do a lot of criticism about the automobile industry. I could criticize manufacturers, I criticize dealers, but I will say this, and this is a compliment. Industry, here comes a compliment from Earl. You have built an amazing product. Your technology and your design, what you've done in the past 20 years in terms of improving the automobile is amazing. So I kudos to the industry, and but that raises a problem because car dealers for years have relied on fixing cars because they make more money fixing cars than they do selling them. A lot of people don't realize that. You'd be surprised that the new car department or the used car department in a dealership don't make as much money as the service and parts department. And if they have a body shop, that's a good profit center too. So when the cars became better and better and better, and almost maintenance free, I mean, I hate to use that because they are not, but I don't misunderstand. They do require maintenance, but the amount of maintenance is minimal compared to what happened 20 years ago. So with all that said, Rick Kearney is a certified diagnostic master technician. He's been fixing cars for a quarter century. Does that make you feel old when I say that?
Yeah, because
Hey, you worked for me for.
I am old. I got to say that, but still, yeah. For an auto mechanic, I'm getting up there.
So, and the advantage is this. The advantage is this. He stays on top of his trade. It gives him a sense of perspective knowing what that 25, 30-year-old vehicle took to make it run right and what that 1-year-old vehicle takes to make it run right. And there's a correlation there. So if you have something that you can't figure out about your car, and we all do, I do, I mean, I'm a car dealer, there's not a day that I don't say, I wonder what that was or if I should do that. Rick?
This kind of fits right in. Last week, one of our younger techs has a 1990 Corolla that he's been rebuilding, and it's a beautiful old car. He came to me and asked if he could borrow a timing light.
1990, 34 years old?
A 1990 Corolla. It's 25 years, or beg your pardon, 35 years old. He asked if he could borrow a timing light because nobody else in the shop had a timing light. Because this is technology back when you used to have distributors on cars that pretty much went away about 1995, 96. Yeah. We all switched to direct injection, our direct spark systems. Yeah. And I was the only one in the shop that still had a timing light and could make sure he understood how to use it. Yeah. And it's like, man, because I remember timing lights were old technology when I started, but still, man, it makes me feel old, but it was kind of cool that I could teach these younger techs the history of how these cars worked.
Well, you know what's interesting, Rick, is the fact that what you just said, I read in the New York Times, and they probably had vehicles as old as like 1990, and everybody was hanging on to their vehicle. Yeah. And they too were having the same issues with finding certain tools, finding people who can even work on them, but they're keeping their cars a whole lot longer.
There's an old joke for Toyota techs where we say that Toyota came out with a recall on the 1990 to 95 Camrys because you really should have bought a new car by now. And so I was trying to recall them all because they just have lasted too long. But
Well,
all cars are that way
it's
now.
a good problem for you, the consumer, to have a car that's so good now that you can afford, you can hold a car for a long time, and your maintenance costs are going to be minimal. I mean, consider the way it used to be. But that isn't always the case. And there's one bad thing about today's new fancy maintenance-free cars. I use that term loosely. They're not maintenance-free, but they're almost. One thing about them is they're complicated. And like some of the engineers and designers of products, the engineers get carried away. They like to do cool stuff, and they like to build products that titillate the imagination of the buyer, and you say, "Oh, this has got this. This has got this." Bells and whistles sell cars. Bells and whistles sell products. So the problem is when you get too many bells and whistles, you don't know how to use them, and that's the reason we have Rick mainly in the studio. I mean, he'll help you on a 1990 car, but what he'll really help you on is your Bluetooth or some other strange thing that your smartphone won't work with this car, but your smartphone works with your other car. He can help you with that. So Rick monitors our YouTube channel, by the way, and I've been talking about our regular telephone. That's 877-960-9960. And please write that number down, and please call 877-960-9960. But also, you can monitor YouTube. That's youtube.com/Earl on Cars. youtube.com/Earl on Cars. And Rick Kearney, our certified diagnostic master technician, he looks at that channel all the time. So when you post, Rick sees it. And it's interesting. He's developed a following of his own. And he has some very, 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 he has some followers on YouTube that could do the show. One of them is named Donovan. And I mean, there's not a week goes by when our YouTube caller, or what do you call a poster, Donovan, will tell us something we didn't know. And it's a great way to watch the show. And if you're particularly into the technical part of things, you'll be able to communicate directly with Rick Kearney. And I know I'm overwhelming you with numbers, but the idea is to get you calling us instead of me talking to you. And we have a text number. That text number is 772, area code 772-497-6530. That's 772-497-6530. And we accumulate those calls, and then toward the end of the show, if we haven't answered the text, we try to get all of them. We get most of them. And as if I haven't confused you enough already, let me give you another number, which it's one of my favorites. I like the anonymous feedback. And that's a link. That's a web link. And it's just, you go to the web link. If you write this down or remember it, youranonymousfeedback.com. YOURANONYMOUS feedback, just the way it sounds, FEEDBACK.com. Youranonymousfeedback.com. And you go to that link, and your communications are totally private, secret, high-tech. FBI can't find you. CIA can't find you. I can't find you. You can say anything you want. You can be as direct. And we welcome criticism. We have a lot of car dealers and employees of car dealerships and manufacturers that listen to the show. And I have to tell you that some of the things we say about car dealers isn't very pretty. So some of them are a little bit nervous about getting on the phone face to face. If you are, tell me what you think. I mean, I respect your opinion. I can see why, if I were you, I might not like me. but I try hard. I try hard. So youranonymousfeedback.com. Tell it like it is. And give us some ideas. Give us some coaches on some things that we should maybe be doing that we're not doing better. Now, I've been yakking and yakking. I'm going to turn the mic over to Nancy Stewart, my co-host. She co-founded this show with me, by the way, 20 years ago. And she built the audience that we now have from all male, kind of an old boys club, into a 50-50. We have parity. We have about half the people calling the show, and probably more than half the people listening to the show are female. And if you haven't figured this out yet, folks, females look at life a little differently than males. And I think they have some pretty good ideas and suggestions. And if you don't hear from half the population, where are we going? So we need to hear from you ladies out there. And Nancy Stewart has got a very special offer that she's going to mention to you right now about what a first-time new caller, if you're female, can benefit if you call the show.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And, I mention every week how important you are to the show, and you definitely are. You're inspiring. You prompt us to think about some things that we just don't give a thought to, and you encourage that, and we help you. So it's an exchange between us and you. And keep that in mind, please. Give us a call. Do you have a question, a concern? Would you like us to change something about the show? Give us a call toll-free at 877-960-9960. You can also text us at 772-497-6530. And for the ladies, did you know that we are having the greatest positive impact on the American auto industry? That's the ladies. Do you realize how important you are to this industry? You have definitely made a difference. And for that, we'd like to recognize you every Saturday morning by giving the first two female callers $50. $50 for the first two new lady callers. So give us a call. You may have a question. You may have a suggestion. 877-960-9960. And we have another feature that we have found pretty successful. Everyone is having fun with it. They're enjoying it. And that's Zoom. Zoom has become our new feature. And if you're joining us via Zoom and you have a question, please use that function that you see right there on the your icon on the bottom of the screen. You see that right there? 926-589-0586. That's the phone number. That's the Zoom phone number. That's if you belong to Zoom, you can dial that number. Is it dial? Do we use that word anymore? Dial the number? I'm 81 years old, soon to be 82, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'd make that announcement this morning in case there's any mistakes or anything going on. You can just take my age into consideration.
It just occurred to me.
Okay, moving on.
I guess I can't talk now.
No, it's my show. No, go ahead.
Cool thing about Zoom is that you can actually show Rick a problem. We had a caller last week, a couple I think, that were in their car. So they were driving. He was in McDonald's having a fish sandwich, I think, but he had a Zoom going in his car. And just think about it. You take your Zoom camera and you could point it to the problem, and Rick could see you and diagnose it. It'd be almost like going into a car dealership and having a mechanical problem or a software problem or something like that. So you Zoom callers. Nancy says that if you have a Zoom account, you can get one, you can sign up, but if you already have one, that Zoom account is 926-589-0586. Zoom account 926-589-0586. And when you go on Zoom, you'll be in immediate touch with Jonathan, who's in our control room here with us right here in the studio, and he'll chat with you. So he'll have a chat going back and forth. So when we're ready, say we're on a phone call or a text or something else, then we can switch over to Zoom, and you'll know when you're going to be coming on. Otherwise, we just see your picture on the laptop, and we're waiting for you. We know you're waiting.
Well, Jonathan's getting getting their location,
Yeah.
information and some other things. Just finding out how, our listeners, Facebook, everybody, how you found out about us, where you're from. Jonathan just likes acquiring all that information. So again, that Zoom number is 589 926 589 0586. That's 926 589 0586. So take advantage of that. Here's one really important number. They're all important, but this here one is much more important, and that is Ashley Moody. Do you know who she is?
Oh, boy.
She's the Attorney General. Ashley Moody is the Attorney General, and by using this phone number to contact her, you can be helping out all of us as consumers, because we are fighting this junk fees, just anything that you can imagine that these dealers are slapping on that price of a vehicle that you're trying to buy in this crazy climate that we live in today. They're adding fees onto the price of the car. Is that honest? Is that fair? Please. I mean, we really have to get Ashley Moody involved. So give her a call. Please give her a call. And her phone number is 866-966-7226. That's 866-966-7226. And you can see that on the bottom of the screen also, along with the Zoom number. And there's a lot of information that Jonathan, as the producer, provides us with on the screen and for the show. So with all of us, that said, I think we better get moving on our show. I have a lot more phone numbers, but I think I've overwhelmed, and you have our audience. So we'll move on.
Yeah, the biggest warning, if we're going to give a warning, the warning should be floods. And of course, we all know that this hurricanes that we've had recently have been way, way past what anyone dreamed, with deaths, with flooding, with damage, $6.5 billion in property damage. Now, why do I talk about hurricanes and flooding? Because you're driving a car. And unfortunately, we talked about this last week, before it was as bad as we finally realized. No one had any idea how bad this was going to be, but the storms that ripped through the eastern part of the United States, through Florida and through the southeast, caused unbelievable damage, especially in the Carolinas, Asheville, absolutely terrible. Now, I don't know what the count will be on damaged cars. It will be on imagination. You're going to have cars that are not just damaged, that are totaled. Now, last week we talked about it, but I'm going to repeat these states. I've got 5 states that if you buy a car that was in the state, the car can wash the title. Now, what does that mean? It sounds like washing clothes. No, I'm saying a car title is supposed to indicate the history of the car. The history of the car is important because if you buy a car, you want to find out what happened to that car 2 years ago or 10 years ago. You want to have the history of the car. But if you completely clean the title from what the history was, which is what New Jersey, North Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia. I'll repeat that. The states of New Jersey, North Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia, they allow people, I don't know why, but they allow people that have cars to change the title where the history is erased. And then you have a clean title. You have a dirty car, but you have a clean title, and you can sell that car as if nothing happened to it. I think of the $6.5 billion of damage. How many hundreds of thousands of cars are in a trench somewhere or in a junkyard somewhere? And let me tell you something, with human beings and the motivation they have, if there's a profit opportunity, they're going to be there. And there are people crawling around, and I say crawling like a reptile, crawling around, buying these cars, knowing perfectly well that they are dangerous, they should be scrapped, and they are putting it together cosmetically. And they're pretty good at it too. I mean, these people do this for a living. So they take a flood car, and they turn it into a car that looks like a pretty nice car. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to end up with one of these cars. So the word to the wise is, be sure you know the origin of the car you buy if you're buying a used car. And they do the same thing with new cars, by the way. So be very, very careful. If you suspect this car may have been in New Jersey, North Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, or Georgia in the past couple of months, watch out.
Yeah. And, there's so many different ways that you can check, on a water damaged, a flood, whatever the severity of the damage is. You really need to check, and it doesn't matter where the car comes from, even though, Earl mentioned these states, Jersey and Tennessee and Georgia and Florida. I mean, trust me, the cars are everywhere, and you really must do your homework. I mean, check for the musty odors, check for the water stains, check for the damp carpet, electrical issues. There's corrosion. There's just so much. Check your headlights, foggy headlights. I'll get to it in a second. Check your headlights. It's very, very important, because once you sign the papers and you drive off the lot, it's becomes extremely difficult. Okay, the guys want me to take this phone call from Jeff, who's calling us from Wellington. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning.
Jeffa?
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Jeff, are you out there?
Welcome. Is this Jeff from Wellington?
So there was a Chet from Wellington.
Good morning and welcome to Earl Stewart on Cars.
Good morning. This is Chet from Wellington, and I'm just following up on a phone call we had a couple months back. You guys are fantastic. I was very nervous. We had a family member who put diesel fuel into our gasoline car. I proposed what had happened. You guys explained. You guys were real good about telling me what to do, and you're spot on. We did what you guys asked and said, and drove the car away.
Excellent.
Perfect ever since. So Toyota survived another one.
Awesome. That is fantastic, Chad.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where I thought it was dead, but it was not. Thanks to your tutelage, it got it right on the money.
Yeah, as long as you catch it in time and a proper clean out, a car can easily survive diesel fuel, and you'll have no lasting damages, and just keep up on your regular maintenance. That car will last you a long time.
Yeah, it's been a great car. I know it's not good for new car sales, but it's great for those of us that have some used ones.
Well, when you look at the price of some of these new cars, I mean, the prices are just going crazy. But used cars, a good used car can be the better deal. And if your car's in good shape and you want to keep running it, hey, a little bit of maintenance, you can keep a car on the road for a long time.
Yeah, my son had this car that was in question about the diesel fuel, and it's never been in the shop for anything other than general maintenance.
Awesome.
So you can't complain about that. And I'm sure it's because of the Toyota, that's why it is what it is.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
go ahead.
all the brands have stepped up on their quality, like just head and shoulders over what they used to be. They just have really gone crazy. But to me, the real true big three is Toyota and Honda, and they're neck and neck on the quality. I'm partial to Toyota myself, but Honda, I got to give them all the respect in the world. And then there's that dark horse ghost Subaru, that their quality level is right up there. But it just, they're such a small company that nobody really talks about Subaru much. But they're a fantastic car. But even the American cars, Fords and Chevys, they have been forced to step up their game and bring their quality up. So yeah, it's all coming up, and that's, that competition is what means the others have to keep up.
Right, and guys like you are the ones that keep the dealerships going because of all the diagnosing you guys do. So you keep it up too. It's got to be quite a different world than it was 10 years ago in the technical part of it.
Oh, absolutely. I literally am insane at night. My wife looks over and I'm constantly just tacking on the computer, reading through all the new stuff and trying to keep up. And man, it's been a education like you wouldn't believe. I've gone from points and distributors and carburetors to computer controls on everything now.
And Rick, while you're talking about that show, give out the information on ASE for people that are looking for a good mechanic.
Yes, if you're ever looking, you want to check a mechanic's certification levels, ask him what ASE certifications he has. It is the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence is what ASE stands for. And basically this is it's an across the board test. There are, for automotive, there's about a dozen different categories, but there are 8 primary ones, and then there's a couple advanced levels. And any good mechanic should have at minimum those 8 primary levels of A1 through A8 certification levels. And this will tell you that, yes, they have the proper training to be able to work on your car, whether they work at a dealership or at an independent shop. As long as they have those certifications, you should be able to trust them.
And they wear a patch, too.
To know what they're doing.
They have a recognition patch on their uniforms.
We'll either see patches on the uniform or a sticker or a magnetic sign on their toolbox. Myself, I just keep one of the little magnetic signs on the toolbox. Just as, hey, I've got that. But, most of us old guys, we've been certified for years because you get started right at the beginning.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. For years, we've purchased a few cars at Earl Stewart, and I've never ever felt like there was any kind of pressure to do anything that I didn't want to do, and everything was always fully explained.
Well, thank you very much for the call. That means a lot. We always feel good when we know we're getting through to people, and when you call the show, that affirms that. So call again, please. We really appreciate your taking the time.
And we appreciate you guys doing this online for us. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Give us a call again. That number here is 877-960-9960. I didn't finish about the flood cars that I was talking about earlier, but the most important thing for you to do is to get that car inspected by a mechanic and let him assess any of the water damage and anything else that's going on that could affect your car. This will encourage you to get to a mechanic. It'll affect your car long term. Yes, long-term problems, and you don't want that, especially with electronics. So get that car to the mechanic and let him check it out. That number again is 877-960-9960. We're going to stay with the phones for a while. We're going to go to Tricia, and she is a regular caller. We've spoken to Tricia about her tires and so many other things on her vehicle. She's become part of the show. Good morning, Tricia.
Well, thank you. But today is not a tire call. But you talking about Ashley Moody, I was a good student, and I called and left a message last Saturday, and they called me back on Monday because, I wanted to call and complain. Why aren't they, following through on, the law and letting all these dealers, add up junk fees, yada yada yada. So one guy, I think his name was George, finally called back, and I said, I want to complain. Hey, this law has been in effect for over 20 years, and even you reiterated on September 1st you were going to enforce it. And I'm in constant contact with the Earl Stewart radio show and hearing that you guys are not, enforcing the law. You want to know what he said? Who's Earl Stewart?
Well, who's George?
Did you tell him?
Of course. I said, oh my God, it's like world renowned. I said, how could you not know? But I guess, what are they located in Tallahassee? Is that it?
Yeah. Where's Tallahassee?
Oh, man.
Yeah, where's Tallahassee?
Right. But I'm thinking maybe that's why I said, oh my God, he's has a radio show for 20 years, and are you calling to complain about that dealership? He didn't even listen to me. I said, no, I'm calling to say, how come you're not following through, as of September 1st? And know what he said? Then the second part of what he said to me was, well, it's not the end of the month. And I'm like, I didn't realize the day, because the day was September 30th. And I didn't realize at that time it was the last day of the month. So after I hung up, I tried to call back, because I was going to say, hey, wait a minute, dude, this is the last day of the month, right? This is September 30th. After he said, well, September's not over yet. And I was on hold for like 10 minutes, and when they answered the phone, I got disconnected. So I wanted to tell you that story.
I love it.
Yeah, that's our government. It's funny, you talk about Tallahassee, and folks from all over the world are listening to our show. But Tallahassee is a little bitty town in the northern
Right.
part of Florida. It's like a country bumpkin town. And it's the center of the state of Florida in terms of government, and it's almost impossible to get from South Florida to Tallahassee. It's like a different country, and so that part of the problem, I think, in Florida anyway, is the fact that government is so remote from the rest of the world that they don't. The problems that you have are in the high population areas. So the further south you go in Florida, the greater the population. And you get down to Orlando, then you get down to Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and the explosion, the population explosion is there. Meanwhile, in this little town up in Tallahassee, they kind of live among themselves up there and chit-chat. And I've been thinking about running a full-page ad in the Tallahassee, I think they call the Democrat, the Tallahassee Democrat, about, attention Ashley Moody, when are you going to follow through on your commitment to enforce the law that you've had on the books for car dealers for the past 20 years? And I'll give you a little hint. We've got a mystery shopping report that doesn't look too good about her enforcing any laws, and it happens to be for a dealership in South Florida. So whatever she's doing, she's not making a lot of noise, and she's not getting a lot of publicity about it. But Tricia,
well, that's why I was a good student and tried to call for you, and this is, the follow through. So.
I can say, Trish, that there's probably, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a handful of people that may have, a handful of consumers that may have done what you did. Because it's rare. It's few and far between. But if you ever, Trish, if you went to Tallahassee, you would understand what Earl meant. When I went to Tallahassee with Earl back in the early 80s, I thought I left Florida. Now, keep in mind, I had come here from Pittsburgh, and that was 40 years ago. But going to Tallahassee just took me way back. Like I said, as a person who came from the Northeast, I just couldn't believe where I was. I couldn't believe it was Tallahassee. So my point is, I think those people have a whole lot of time on their hands, and they could help us in more ways than one. And I want to thank you for going above and beyond by staying on the phone and making that phone call. And wouldn't it be great for our show if almost everyone that called us did just that? So thank you very much for that, Trish.
You're very welcome. And I've been up to Tallahassee. I once dated a guy up there. It's a big college town, but I've been up there. But you're right. It doesn't make a difference what town, it's in. Like Tallahassee, they should be taking care of the problem.
Sure.
No matter where. So.
Well, they're even in D.C. and they're not taking care of any of us. So with that said, I'm going to shorten the call, Tricia. I have a whole lot of callers backed up. I can't thank you enough for calling and spreading the word to the ladies that I do give them $50 for the first 2 new lady callers if they called this morning at 877-960-9960. So, Trish, have a great weekend and give us a call next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we're going to stay with the phones, and we're going to go with, I think Bobby's up next. Hello?
Hello?
Welcome
How are
to
you?
Earl Stewart on Cars.
Hi. I wanted to revisit an older issue about replacement parts, OEM replacement parts. My wife, somebody ran into the back of my wife's car and messed up the bumper cover. So I had to take it to Lexus body shop. And when you go in now, one of the papers they ask you to sign is to agree that if the insurance company doesn't want to provide OEM parts, you agree to that. And you don't have to sign it, but you have to be aware that it's there. So I didn't sign it, and they're quite aware that I didn't sign it. And then Allstate called me and said, well, the lady who ran into your wife's bumper agreed to take aftermarket parts. And I said, well, that's great. Put them on her car, but don't put them on our car.
Good for you.
And he's all flummoxed, and he's explaining that that's not the way it works. And because of what I've learned from your show, I said, oh, yes, it is the way it works. And so, as it turns out, Lexus was never going to put on aftermarket parts, so it wouldn't have mattered eventually. But that's what happens, and it's hard for the consumer because we don't do this every day, and you get shoved 4 or 5 sheets of paper that you have to sign. You could easily sign that and say,
Bobby, you've hit on one of the most atrocious, misunderstood. I'll call it a crime. That's probably a little exaggerated, but there's a understanding between insurance companies and, unfortunately, our government that they are going to allow insurance companies, and insurance companies have enormous financial clout, and they get politicians elected. Therefore, they're like big insurance and big auto. They have that lobbying power where they can get away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with. And a original equipment manufacturing part has gone through all the safety testing by law. So if you have a car, it's got all the parts on that brand new car are original equipment because they were built by the manufacturer of the car. And then the government took that car out and they tested it. They crash tested it. They rolled it over. They did a head-on test, and they gave it a grade. And the National Highway Institute for Safety also does a similar test. So you know yourself, when you buy a new car, the government says it's safe. Now, when you repair the car, all bets are off because now the government allows insurance to take a car that was never safety tested and put it on your car. So here's you got a brand new Lexus, a hood. That hood, by crash standards, has to compress at a certain rate. There are a lot of qualifications that hood has to meet, and they actually crash those cars and they inspect them. And then they get an approval to use on the car when they manufacture the car. Once you fix the car, you get the hood from Taiwan or Hong Kong or wherever these aftermarket parts come from, and they have never been safety tested. Now, the insurance company, State Farm, Geico, and the rest of them, they do a little song and dance, and they've been trained. And here's what they say: "Oh, all these parts have been certified." Well, they've been
Yes.
certified because they look pretty, and maybe they're a certain thickness or they're certain, they have some certifications. But the one certification that you care about are crash testing, and they've never been crash tested. And can you imagine that this has been going on for forever? And the insurance companies, they're doing it because these certified cars, the parts they buy are cheaper than the parts they buy from the manufacturer.
Right. Allstate this time, by the way. But yes, that's the song and dance. But the problem is you got to be ready for them. You know, you don't. I guess you do expect the people to be sort of dishonest and misleading, but you have to have all your answers ready for them.
Yeah.
When they start coming at you. So that's the issue. The other issue is careful what you sign when you're turning your car in, because you could agree to take the aftermarket parts without hardly knowing it.
Well,
Do I have time? Go ahead.
No, Bobby, you're right, you're exactly right. And the thing that you can do also is do what you did: lean on the insurance company, lean on the dealer, because the dealer also the dealer can help, and the insurance company can help if they know you're going to insist. Also, some of the manufacturers, I'm surprised when you told me Lexus allowed that. There are some manufacturers that do ask that crash parts be, very few, but some of them do require the crash parts be OEM because of the very reason we talked about, because they're safer. So pure and simple. And
Sure.
But you said Lexus would not agree to put the OEM parts on your car?
No, they didn't agree to put the aftermarket parts.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I thought Lexus was
did.
one of the good guys, yeah.
Right, they are, but they still, when I turn the car in at Lexus, they ask you if you'll agree to take the aftermarket parts, and you just have to not agree. You have to.
They make you beg.
Yeah, right. Do I have time for a light bulb question for Rick?
First, I want to tell you, Bobby, what a great call. The advice there's a lot of people that are listening to you, and what a great call. I heard you say you got to be ready. And isn't that the truth? Because a lot of people walk into service, they walk in to purchase a car, lease a car, whatever it is, and they're not ready. They just don't do their homework. And Bobby, I commend you.
Well, I'll have to say the reason I'm ready is because I listened to this show, so that's why I was ready, and I don't think they knew what hit them this time. So that's good.
Thank you.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's progress. How about Mike? Do I have a time for a light bulb question for
yes.
Rick? Rick, some light bulbs on it's a 2017 Lexus on the dash where you control the lights, the lights that shine for air conditioner, fan, and what mode you're in.
Gotcha.
When those lights burn out, do you just live with it, or can you dig in and fix them?
Here's the tricky part. Sometimes there are little micro bulbs in there. Some of those are available through the dealer where you can take it apart, pull out the little socket, and actually replace the bulb. But you'll need to check the parts department on it very carefully, because some of them are not available. They simply can't order those little bulbs. Most cases, they are replaceable, though, and you can simply pull it apart, pull out the old one, pop a new one in, and it's literally just like a tiny eyeglass-sized screwdriver that you just put in the little slot, give it a twist. The little socket comes out. You put the new one in, twist it back, and snap it back together.
And you can do that all from the front of the dash. You don't have to take any of the...
In most cases, yes. 90% of our dashes on Toyotas, you can take the entire dash out of the car with a Phillips head screwdriver, a 10 millimeter socket, and a 12 and maybe a 14 socket. You could literally take the entire dash completely out of the car. But usually on that front section, check on YouTube and I guarantee you'll find somebody has posted a video of how to disassemble that center section, because most of those AC controls are simply held with plastic clips. So a pocket screwdriver with a little bit of masking tape on it so that you don't scratch anything up, and pop those right apart. Or if you have them, Harbor Freight or Amazon, you can get what's called the dash plastic pry bars. They're little pry bar pieces that are made of plastic, so you can pop those dash components out without scratching anything.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, and appreciate the information. And thanks for the show.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bobby. Ladies, let's prove to the guys this morning that you have made a positive impact on the American auto industry. My lines are all lit up. Guess who's calling? They're all guys. Come on, ladies. I'll give you an incentive. $50 for the first 2 new lady callers. You can win yourself $50. Give us a call toll free at 877-960-9960. Now we are going to go to Marty, who's been waiting patiently. And for Rick and Dan and John, hang on, everybody. We'll be right with you. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well, thank you.
I got a question for Earl.
Okay.
All these states that were flooded, I'm sure a lot of new car dealerships got flooded.
Yeah.
What does the manufacturer do when the new cars have been flooded? Do they replace them, scrap them, or what do they try to do to them?
Well, the manufacturer.
Who knows?
Go ahead, Stu.
It's an insurance situation. Great example. A friend of ours out in Houston or near Houston several years ago. What was that big Maria that hit Houston and flooded it? It was like biblical flooding, and they lost, I think, most of their new car inventory that was already on the ground. Insurance covers it, and then as far as support, the manufacturer, objectives are canceled. Special considerations are made when it affects a big a region like that. But it's insurance. Those cars have been purchased by the manufacturer. Those deals are done, and the dealers, garage keepers, insurance will cover that.
Does the car just get scrapped then?
It's what they do with that. They
sell the cars.
Yeah,
They have people crawling all over the lots. There's an industry,
right.
Marty.
Trucks will pull in.
All they do. This is really a specialty. They travel around the country. They see there's a disaster, a flood. Then these people go up there and they bid on these cars.
They'll have a
so
flood
the high
auction.
bidder gets the car. So the person that's going to do something underhanded with the car is going to be able to pay more for the car than the insurance company would allow. The insurance companies are not going to most likely take advantage, but the guy that is going to glue the car back together and make it look pretty and smell pretty,
right.
but not be a real safe car, he's going to outbid the insurance company, and that's how these cars. And then they move them to another state because they obviously, if you're in Asheville, North Carolina, and you're going to buy a used car, you're going to be real careful. But they take that car from Asheville, North Carolina, that was in the flood, and they ship it to
Delray Beach.
Yeah, Delray Beach, and sell the car there.
Now, the legit purpose on some of these cases, though, people will buy these cars, companies, and they'll bring them to a scrapyard.
Yes.
They'll strip the entire thing down and clean up the salvageable parts that can still be then sold and reused.
Yeah, there are legitimate uses, but it usually involves that disassembling and finding out what has not been, what is usable, which is not any of the electronics. We're talking about
I don't think they scrap any cars. There's always a piece of a car.
Recycle them.
Yeah,
they'll recycle.
Scrap is not
outdated term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the unfortunate situation is the fact, Marty, that these cars could end up anywhere, no matter what anyone tells you, about the paperwork, about scrapping them, about selling a part, about this or that. There's an unfortunate person out there that's going to end up with a flood car that thinks that he or she got a pretty damn good deal. And as I explained earlier in the show, if you don't establish, that you've got water damage and have a mechanic look at your car, well, you're screwed.
trouble.
What I'm saying, Nancy, if the car has 0 miles on it, can it ever end up back in a new car dealership?
Not it shouldn't, but I can imagine a situation where it could, but
It's not
generally
unheard
you're
of.
not going to see that at the new car dealership.
Well, in Marty, in Florida, part of the industry is export. And so if you were to go down to Miami or Fort Lauderdale to the port now, you would see thousands of cars being loaded on wrecked cars, flooded cars being loaded on these large car carriers and headed south or east or someplace, and other countries take these cars in, and there are no laws. You go to South America, you go to Costa Rica, a lot of places, they have no regulations, and South Florida is a huge export center for cars like this. And if you go to an auction in South Florida, a wholesale auto auction, you'll see these very people buying up these flood cars, putting them on a truck, taking them to the port, putting them on a boat, taking them to Venezuela, and then or wherever they end up, and they make a ton of money doing that.
Well, all right. Very good. You answered my question.
Thanks, Marty. Have a
you.
great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And, I was just checking in on these flood cars and auto auctions. And you can agree with me or disagree. The cars damaged in floods are frequently sold at auctions like Copart or what's the other place? Insurance Auto. They're sold there also. So these flood damaged cars, they're everywhere, and they're going to affect everyone.
Well, reputable auctions will not sell a flood car, but there's also auctions that will. So it's like any other industry. You got good people and bad people.
Exactly. And there are dealerships out there that are selling flood cars. It happens. It's real. Okay, let's give out that number again, 877-960-9960. And ladies, $50 for the first 2 new lady callers. I'm waiting to hear from you, 877-960-9960. We're going to stay with the phones, and we're going to talk to Rick, who's calling us from North Palm Beach. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just thought I was listening. I actually scrolled across your station, your show, unexpectedly, and haven't turned it off since. So thank you for doing such a great job and informing all of us. But so I thought I'd share. Just happened to jump in when you guys were talking about flood damaged cars, and I thought, I'm from Wisconsin, and as we have learned, there are dishonest and honest people everywhere in the world, and it doesn't matter whether it's Florida.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I bought a car from a reputable dealership that I thought, well, I know these people. So I bought this used Nissan Rogue, just a couple years old, and drove it off the lot. And about 2 weeks later, I had a problem with the hub and brought it back in. They were not going to replace it because you drove it off the lot, as you guys had explained. But again, they're a reputable company. They took care of it. Through time, things started going wrong with this car. So then I took it to a local Christian-based repair shop that we know very well and we've trusted over the years and would rather send you somewhere else than to say they could fix something. So we trusted them for a very long time, took it to them and let them look at it. They told me that they believe there was flood damage to this car.
Oh,
And I said, it was not reported. He goes, let me explain a little loophole to this flood damage. He says, if the water did not get inside the car, they don't have to report it. Now, it could be a 1/4 inch below that line.
right.
And this car could, he says, it looks like your car was sitting in standing water for a very long time just below that line.
Oh, boy.
Because I see
That's crazy.
the amount of rust taken care of underneath. He goes, this car could have been sitting in water
Yeah, he could see the flood line on it.
He could see underneath. He could tell where the rust difference happened. He said, now, I don't want to say that anyone's dishonest here, but there truly is a loophole. It looks like your car was sitting in water for a very long time, and every component that it was sitting in is damaged.
Yeah, so it might have like some of the things like the computer systems. Rick, what do you think?
I'm thinking right off the bat of the. He mentioned the hub.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking of the wheel bearings,
Rust.
the brakes, the caliper slide pins.
Yeah.
These are all items that are going to be very low.
Right.
So
the
before the
computers and electronics might have escaped, but
before the water
stuff,
even gets up to the level where it gets inside the car, this is where it can seep in, displace a lot of the grease, and get in and cause corrosion in parts like, especially the brake caliper slide pins. If you get water that sits in those and creates corrosion, you step on the brake pedal, and guess what?
No brakes?
No brakes.
Holy
the car
mackerel.
does not stop. You could be driving along on the highway. Things heat up on the highways. You're moving along. The bearings heat up. Everything gets warmer. Suddenly, you have no brakes.
All right. So what happens? So they point out the flood. The evidence of the flood damage, and what would you do?
So what I did was I went back to the dealership, and the dealership says, you may be right. However, this was a traded-in car from another person. We did our due diligence to see if it was in any flood. It was not.
Wow.
So we have no responsibility to do anything for you because we only go by what the documents say.
Did the other shop? How long did it take them to find this flood damage?
Well, because I brought it in for other things because it seemed like you said, the brakes were acting weird, and they looked at the brakes and they said, "Yeah, we're going to replace your brakes. However, you have a bigger problem."
Okay. But I wonder if it's something as soon as if they just put it on the lift, if that's all it took. The dealership that sold it to you, I mean, I don't know what the law is in your state.
The law generally is if you knew or had reason to know that the car had a problem, and
that's
so that's
subjective,
yeah.
right? I mean we can always play dumb, and
It's
and
just,
so then
it's
I
just
asked
crazy.
what our
I'm
next-
sorry to interrupt, but just a lot of dealerships, I'm not saying because they don't have to, but they have a process where they do a basic inspection.
No.
They got to look, all right, how much is it going to cost me to get this car ready for sale? So they put it up on a lift. If it was, I'm thinking, unless this was really hidden, but this sounds pretty extensive across the whole bottom portion of the car. If they have a process, that dealership where they look at all cars and they say, well, we didn't look at this car, then they're lying. If they have a process by which it's called reconditioning or just a safety inspection, and I think it sounds like it would have been obvious.
And I'll go back to my very first statement, which is why I said there are dishonest and honest people across every state, everywhere. So I agree with you. I think what I thought at least was an honest dealership could have been different. They also could have just did a half-baked inspection and threw it on the lot. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
A walk around maybe.
Did you have how many mechanics looked at your vehicle before you purchased it?
None. And that was the problem because I actually bought it from not just a used car dealership. I bought it from an actual dealership that was a Chevy. It was a Chevy dealership that I bought the Nissan from. So
I see. It's so unfortunate that we get into such a gray area. It really is unfortunate, and if you listen to this show and you see, how I grade the mystery shopping report, you can see that, I am just, I'm true to what I believe in. And some of these mystery shopping reports just don't reflect who I am. Your story right now doesn't reflect who I am. Wasn't there some honest person who would sympathize with you. I don't care how long the car was sitting or whether it was an inch of water, half an inch of water. It doesn't really matter. that you purchased a vehicle and, down the road you expected to keep that vehicle for quite some time. Once it has water damage, there's so many different things could be affected by that vehicle, which leaves you in a financial situation. It leaves you crumbling.
Sorry to interrupt. I just a quick question. I mean, it sounds like you have, or a statement. I think you have an actionable case here. I mean, it would be a simple matter. I mean, you could start by saying, "Can I just see the safety inspection report that the tech did before you sold me?" I don't know if they're going to give it to you. I mean, but you can at least ask, "Didn't you do a safety inspection?" Because at some point, I mean, I don't believe at a new Chevy franchise they don't have a used car inspection process. They have a Chevy certified inspection process, and then they have their own in-house one. I guarantee you, I know Chevy dealers. So,
and I appreciate that. Now, this was about 4 years ago.
Okay, forget about it.
We probably let this sail. Yeah,
your call's still very important, extremely important for you to call. And, I wish you were in the studio. You know why? Rick is just scratching his head.
Not really. To me, it comes down to the one. I hate to be the pointing a finger here,
he's
but
holding that vein down.
It's any time you're going to purchase a used car, even if the car only has like 1,000 miles on it, have it inspected by an independent mechanic of your choice, someone that will give you their honest opinion of whether this car has any issues, whether it's been in an accident, whether it might have been in a flood, whether somebody might have just taken it on a joyride and bounced off a dozen curbs. I mean, unless that car is a brand new car, which will be covered under a 3-year, 36,000 mile or more bumper-to-bumper warranty, it should be inspected by a mechanic of your choice.
Please don't feel bad for not doing that. We sell a lot of used cars, and I couldn't tell you if anybody ever really does that. Despite we speak about this on the show every week, very few people are taking their cars.
Well, just last week, Agent Lightning, they purchased a truck. From a dealership, a used vehicle.
And they didn't.
They did not have it inspected.
Nope.
And I hope Agent Lightning does have it brought into our shop to be looked at by one of our guys to make sure that everything is right on that.
For sure, Rick. For sure.
And here's the other side of this, folks, is that there was one of those dealerships in Wisconsin. We're all rural and we're all farmland. So it's one of those dealerships that was off of a highway, not really in a town anywhere, 30 miles from where I lived. But gosh, what a great deal this car was, right? So you drive 30 miles, the guy you trust, the Christian-based guy that would not screw anyone over is 30 miles away, and you're going to take it for a test drive. Shame on me. Yeah. I will never do that again. But my recommendation to anyone is, if you're going to go buy a used vehicle, make sure somebody, at least in the vicinity you trust, can look at that car, because there just wasn't anybody I could drive this car to that I would trust.
Yeah, geographically
great
impossible.
Advice. It was great speaking with you. I have several calls that are lined up, and we appreciate your call and the information you shared with us. Even though it's the bottom line here, you just got through saying that was 4 years ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are. Here we are talking about being taken advantage of, and my heart has to go back. I think of her often, Ashley Moody, the Attorney General. What is she doing to help the consumer? There's so much for her to do, and she's not doing it. So I thank you for the phone call. I truly appreciate it. Okay, we are going to go to Dan, I believe, who's patiently holding. I'll tell you guys, you really have a lot of... Good morning.
I have a question. It's not a flood-related question, but I'll tell you, the information while I was on hold listening, very, very informative. But my question is this. I was talking, during the week at work, I was talking to a friend, and he was involved in an accident. And it was a minor accident. It involved the hood and the front panel and so forth. And no ticket was given by the police officer to him or the other driver. And so once the police officer came, he went ahead and contacted his auto insurer, which is State Farm. And once he did that, he received an email as far as a list of approved body shop owners or companies that could do the work. And seeing that he lived in Boca, it was convenient, so he got a list. I think it was like a half a dozen body shops to go to. So my question was this. Is there any incentive for him to shop around those body shops on that approved list of State Farm or not?
You should take the car to the body shop that you trust. And if the insurance company gives you a hard time, then you need to go head to head with them. You have the right to choose a qualified body shop to fix your car. I always recommend that if you're driving a Chevrolet, try to find a Chevrolet body shop. If you're driving a Honda, then go to a Honda dealer's body shop. They have direct access to the parts because they are the manufacturer's representative. Therefore, they pay less for the parts than another body shop would. They have the technician training available to them. But State Farm, Allstate, and Geico, and the rest of them, they have their preferred shops. The question is, why are they preferred? And oftentimes, the reason they're preferred is because the body shop agrees to do the repairs for less money and costs the insurance company less money. So, first thing you should say when you have an accident that you want your body shop, your insurance company, to allow you to use the body shop you choose, and that's the one that you feel will do the best job fixing the car.
So if he was to choose a company that wasn't on that list, another body shop that he felt comfortable with, would State Farm be obligated to pay that full bill or not?
Well, they would have to. That would be between the insurance company and you that you chose and the insurance company. The insurance company can haggle and they can argue, but if you, I've had a body shop ever since I've been a car dealer, and I've had multiple body shops, and I've had oftentimes confrontations on this very subject with body shops. If you're persistent and you stand up for your rights about why you want that body shop to fix your car, usually the body shop will reach an agreement with your insurance company that you chose. I mean, the insurance company will reach an agreement, and they don't want a lawsuit. I've had to sue. In my dealership, I've had to sue insurance companies because they refuse to allow my customers to use my body shop, and I won. We never lost a case.
They called it steering.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. So basically what I'm understanding is that he does have an option to go on that list or off the list, and if he does go off the list, then he just got to stand firm in his decision to go with another body shop other than the approved list.
Yeah, if you like the guys on the list, there's no problem. But if you don't, if you have a preference, you take it. It goes where you guys want to take it.
Perfect. All right, listen, I appreciate the information. I'm going to talk when I see my friend on Monday. I'm going to relay the info. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you. You have a great weekend also. Ladies, $50 for the first two new lady callers. You still have a minute or two to win that $50 if you're a first-time caller. 877-960-9960. We'll be turning the phones off shortly. We're going to go to John in Palm City. Good morning, John.
Good morning. I'd like to accuse a new car dealer or a group of car dealers in Martin or St. Lucie County of boycotting Earl Stewart on his weekly blog in Hometown News. Other editions of Hometown News run his blog. Earl runs an ad in the local Treasure Coast edition, which is the one I'm talking about, and his ad has no dealer fee, and he pays for the ad. And also, the shopping reports are not good. If you go back and check the records, including even last week in Martin County in particular, of dealer reports, shopping reports. So I feel that he is being completely boycotted, and he has a right to have this published in the Hometown News, a weekly newspaper, which is free, but it has fabulous news in it. And the latest edition 2 weeks ago had about an incident in Target and Best Buy. Some of the stores, they robbed $3,000 worth of merchandise. They were from Florida, and no other paper had this detail on it. They put stop sticks out, and they got the 4 people in the van, the rented van, and they were driving even on 4 flat rims. So, and also weekly they have arrest reports. But it's a great newspaper, and I'm very disappointed that they used to in the past run Earl's blog, and they have omitted that permanently, it looks like.
Well, thank you, John. They changed owners a couple of years ago, and we used to have to fight with them because the local dealers didn't want to have our column. We have a blog, and it's an opinion blog, and we say what we do on this show in the blog about how not to get ripped off by a car dealer. And of course, the car dealers don't like to hear that, especially when we talk about mystery shopping reports. So we've been fighting hometown news on and off for years, and we've won until this new owner came in and bought the paper, and now
there's a long history of of conflict with Earl's publications and various publishers and radio shows. It's also funny, even when they did publish articles, a lot of them, they would reject quite a few. They said, we're not publishing this.
Yeah, right.
But Florida Weekly would. They had a less of political sensitivities. At one point, Hometown News just basically said, if you're going to mention or feature any public figure, we're not going to run it.
Right.
It made no sense. I mean, the First Amendment, this is not really a First Amendment case, but what is the press for is to criticize or
I think they mentioned Ashley Moody. They got mad at us because we mentioned Ashley Moody, I think.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
They didn't want to run that.
And John, what a great conversation you and I had, and I'm so glad you called this morning to bring this topic, to the forefront because something is so wrong here. It is unacceptable and it's wrong. And have you read the Florida Hometown News? And have you read all of the papers that Earl has his column?
Yes, I get it from another source.
Okay.
From another area. They give it to me.
Yeah. So
what gets me upset is I moved here 30 years ago, and it seems to me, especially in Stewart, that the shady dealers from south, from Dade and Broward County, even from Palm Beach County, they have notified. They came to this town and St. Lucie County, and to get away from problems they caused down there. And they've closed them down here. I mean, just for instance, the Cadillac, the Chevy, the Ford, the Toyota dealer, the Buick dealer, GMC, they have all changed hands. And history is so bad. Toyota dealer in Stewart was actually revoked. Blue Marlin Motors it's a used car dealership. The owner went into federal prison. He was accused of first-degree grand theft. I mean, it goes on and on. Scotty's used cars on Route 1 was setting odometers back 50 to 100,000 miles. I mean, there's
John,
no end to it.
I have a theory. The perception for dealers in Miami, it's a super high competitive area, and it's very dense. You throw a rock and you're going to hit another dealership. When you get up into Martin County and St. Lucie and the population thins out some, there's less of a the culture there is. I think I don't want to say naive, but it's the guard isn't up as much. And so, dealers, owners seek opportunity in areas like that. We had a caller before. He said he bought this car at a dealership 30 miles away from anything. And Earl, in our 20 group, we had a guy who had a dealership in Amarillo. It was similar to that. I think it was like 50 miles to the nearest dealership. He controlled how much he charged for everything, and people didn't go. And he was a good guy. He wasn't insane, but he had these opportunities to do that because there's nobody around him. And so, but Martin County's growing and all that, so it's turning into Palm Beach County. But
that area that's growing, you can no longer see the sign when you drive to Tequesta, Stewart, Kumbaya. Doesn't exist anymore. You got to be careful, no matter where you go, to purchase a vehicle, to get any kind of information. Even if you get your car worked on, you just can't let your guard down.
No, I moved away from these years ago, these shady dealers in the New York area, and I didn't expect to find so many of them down here in Florida. So it's pathetic. You have to be careful,
Yeah.
and you have to listen to this show every week.
Yeah, absolutely. John, thanks so much for your dedication.
All right, guys.
Have a great
Looking
weekend.
forward to the shopping report.
Thank you so much. It'll be a good one. You're going to enjoy it. We're going to go to Bill in Lake Worth. Good morning, Bill.
Nancy. Good morning, Nancy. I'll be real quick. I'm sitting here laughing about so much. You asked what Ashley Moody has been doing, and I don't want to get political. It's a car show. I don't want to get political. It's God is my witness, but it seems to me she's been busy trying to keep potential amendments to the state constitution off the ballot and not just letting people vote on them. And so she's probably been busy doing that. And I was laughing.
Is that what she's been doing? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I think so. Am I wrong?
We're not going to open a can of worms, but
No. Like I said, it's a car show. It's a car show. And
hey,
then
Bill. No matter what
yeah.
anyone says today, and I mean that literally today, everything is political. I mean, there so many people out there with thin skin. You got to really be careful what you say.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's just the way of the land now.
Yeah, it's like you're always walking on glass, let alone with your own family.
That's even worse.
Yeah, but Stu said Martin County's turning into Palm Beach County, and I'm laughing because Palm Beach County's turning into Dade County.
Yeah.
And,
so there.
I don't want to hurt Howard's feelings. No, John. It was John who was on before me, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt his feelings or anything, but he said he moved down here to get away from all those dealers in New York, and I'm thinking they just followed him down here.
Well, that's where they are now. They're not here.
They all did too. It was like, it's nice down here, and like, why should I?
You know what, Bill?
I'm tired of shoveling snow off my cars.
Bill, I'm from Pittsburgh, and I had a saying, and I marked it on my calendar every morning before I left for work: the land of milk and honey. And I was referring to sunny Florida because I was so tired of digging my way out of the snow. I was getting old, and my arthritis was, yes.
The old saying of the South is, when you get to Florida, the further south you go in Florida, the further north you are.
Well, where were you?
We're New York South down here.
It's kind
Where
of
were you 40 years ago? Why didn't you tell me?
I got it. It's a different world in northern Florida and up in Georgia, and that's the true South up there.
Okay, Earl is either playing
We're
a little
getting into geography
Beethoven,
now.
or
Earl Stewart on geography.
okay, Bill.
Anyway, that's all I had. I know you have other callers.
Thanks so
Y'all
much,
have a
Bill.
good
It was
weekend.
great talking to you.
Yeah, good
You
call,
too,
thanks.
Nancy. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, according to our producer, we are done with our phone calls.
Hey, Earl, T. Cash is asking, Earl, shouldn't you have bought the hometown, well, he says the hometown rag. I think he meant the hometown news.
Well, that would really put a cast doubt about my integrity if I
Right, yeah.
if I owned the newspaper. But no, I kind of like the controversy. For a while there, for many years, probably 20 or more years, we've had that little controversy. And I used to call the editor, and I would shame the editor at Hometown News into doing what he should do, because most journalists, I'll use that term loosely, are fairly ethical, and a lot of them aren't. But I mean, I think most of them, the majority are. And if you talk to a good journalist, and you tell them the truth, the ethics take over sometimes, and they've agreed to run articles that they wouldn't run before. But the new owner came in, and that was a different ball game, and the new owner won't listen to anything. So Hometown News doesn't like my column, and they won't run it in Port St. Lucie.
Okay, guys, the mic is yours. I'll be back in 5.
Okay. Hey, before we get to that, we have, can I get a text from Anne Marie?
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Unless you already read that. Okay. Anne Marie says, good morning. Jalopnik.com reports that Hurricane Helene swamped a Kia dealership in Newport Richey, Florida, leaving parts of the dealership under 4 feet of water. The floodwaters destroyed 660 new and used cars. It's a pretty big dealership, as well as 12 customer cars that were in for repairs.
Wow.
The dealership's insurance will cover their cars minus the deductible, but whose insurance covers the loss of the customer cars that were in for the repair? The dealer's insurance or the individual owners? Would the value of the customer's cars be even lower since they were in for repairs? While the cars were in for service, it's called control, care, and custody, and that means the customer's cars that were destroyed should be covered under the dealer's garage keeper's insurance, unless they have a act of God provision or something like that. I don't think that's common now.
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
I do know that while we have them in for service or body shop, we have custody and control, so they will be under ours. But the second part of the question is because they were in for repairs, would they be worth less? The cars would just be assessed for the current value in the state that they are in. And how it would work. Some people's insurance policies might cover things for that. So if there was, God forbid, an exclusion in the dealer's insurance, that could be covered. Flood damage is covered in some comprehensive policies. So that's all I know about that.
Insurance companies would fight it out. Would be the
answer.
Yeah,
they would. Everybody would be fighting. Your insurance company is fighting it against the dealers, and eventually you get screwed. No, eventually it's not a good thing, no matter what. But
this was it's so huge. It started out after, for you folks that followed the hurricanes going back a couple of weeks ago. It sounded like just another nonsense hurricane, with very little damage, and the media hypes everything, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning and there are hundreds of people dead, and there's $6.5 billion with a B, $6.5 billion in damage. So this is, I think, one of the largest hurricanes in history. And it wasn't really that bad a hurricane. It was the water and the mud and the
it wasn't the wind up in the Carolinas.
And so this is going to be enormous. We can't overemphasize to be careful about buying cars. These cars are not going to vaporize. They're going to be moved around. Someone's going to be buying some of these cars that shouldn't be buying those cars.
By the way, Donovan came on earlier. He mentioned for more of a feel-good point of view here, a lot of folks with the F-150 Lightnings and other electric vehicles, even several with Cybertrucks, are using these vehicles to help power not only their own homes, certain essential elements, but also to help out their neighbors as well in places where they got serious flooding and issues like that up there. So a lot of these new EVs, they're finding a dual purpose where, hey, at least if you've got a way to plug in and run a coffee pot.
Yeah, or if you want to have a barbecue, you just submerge it in salt water. And
there were a couple of issues. Cars that did get under
shocked.
salt water. The electric cars had a fire. They have at least a couple of those. But folks, don't underestimate, when you're out of power for weeks on end, several weeks, and this, I know because I've been there when we had hurricane hit my area, and suddenly your neighbor says, hey, come on over here. I got a cup of hot coffee for you.
It's a beautiful thing.
That right there.
We don't want to brag, but that's what we did. The same hurricanes you're talking about. I think we had 2 weeks, and the most important thing we did is we got a generator going at the dealership, and we had a coffee maker.
Yep.
And that was a luxury. It sounds like it was. It was a tough time.
Yeah. So for all those folks up in the area there, North Carolina, Tennessee, all those areas that were hit so hard, we feel for you a lot. Here in Florida, we've been through a lot of that sort of thing, and
except for the mudslides in the river.
And
we don't have a dog this week.
I was about to ask Jonathan. We do have a dog. We are 1 minute away from the dog.
Oh, okay.
Are we really?
No, we should get to it if we can.
Okay, we are 0 seconds away from the dog.
Let me just mention one thing that I've been meaning to mention during the entire show, and it's just, again, the warning. We're talking about floods. Now we're talking about when you're buying a new vehicle that is not just a new vehicle, but it's a new manufacturer. I had a friend of mine the other day said, "Have you seen the new Rivian truck?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What do you think about it?" I said, "It's. I understand it's a good truck. It really got some great qualities and features. Electric vehicle." And I said, "I don't particularly care the way that they look, but
Jason's driving one. My brother, your son.
Yeah.
He drives one. He likes it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the problem is they're hanging by a thread financially. So the warning to our listening audience is there is a turbulence and what is the word, danger in the auto manufacturing industry like never before. You're going to see some stalwart companies, manufacturers that have been around for a long, long time go out of business. I don't want to jinx anybody, but I think
we're looking at you, Stellantis.
Stellantis might be one of those. Rivian, even though they're an upstart and they build a great vehicle, in my opinion, they might not make it. I mean, let's face it, Ford, General Motors. We don't know who the survivors are going to be, but the manufacturer, the auto manufacturer that we think of today, we think of Toyota, Honda, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, which is now Stellantis. We think of these, but the fact of the matter is there won't be auto manufacturing companies as we know them. They're software companies. So we're talking about, like Alphabet and Waymo, and the whole world is turning into a software company. And then, oh, by the way, we'll put the car together over here. But the assembly and manufacture of a car is just an afterthought. The science and the technology is what it's all about. So we're liable to end up 20 years from now, and 90% of the manufacturers that we deal with today will be gone. And you don't like that. Do you remember Oldsmobile? Do you remember Pontiac?
Saturn.
Do you remember Edsel?
Saturn.
Pierce.
Saturn.
Mm-hmm. Pierce. Yeah. Tucker. Pierce. I mean, a lot of these car companies have come and got Yugo.
Yeah, but even kind of recently, it's like, I mean, it used to be like you'd think back to Edsel, but in the last,
Packard. There's so many car companies that are just, nobody even remembers them anymore.
Yeah.
Fisker was one of the recent ones, the electric car.
Oh, yeah.
They were here for a short time. Boom, they're gone already.
Here today, gone tomorrow.
Lucid is hanging on by a bit of a thread right now.
That's a shame.
Rivian's another one. Hey, Earl, you were talking about, I came in on the end of it. I think you were talking about service, somebody getting service or bringing their car in. Here we have reached an age where here's the Cybertruck that you now have, and it's been recalled. And it's been recalled since 2023, several different times. But isn't it amazing that you can have your car serviced right in, in the garage overnight,
it's all
and it's done
software
with
download.
software.
Yeah.
And isn't that an amazing feat?
We
know?
got the for our Cybertruck. Nancy and I have a Tesla Cybertruck, and we got a recall notice in the mail the other day. I said, "Oh, damn! It was the accelerator. An issue with the accelerator. So that's dangerous. I'm not gonna, let this go. So I got to get it fixed." And then I double checked and found out that there was going to a software download was going to come that night and fix my accelerator.
Yeah, and it was going to. It also is coming in at midnight, I believe, and it's going to take care of the issue with the screen on the Cybertruck.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's it's a whole lot better than going down to Okeechobee Boulevard. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay, folks, Jonathan is going to hang me. You know why? He wants. I wish the camera was on him right now. Do you see what he just did?
Here, I'm going to turn this one around.
He's wonderful. We wouldn't know what to do without Jonathan. He keeps us all on the straight and narrow. Okay, folks, we have to get to the mystery shopping report.
We got a doggy. We got Duke.
Wait, what?
We have a dog. We got a doggy.
Oh, we got
Rick.
Oh, that's right. We got Duke. We got Duke, and you sound
That's the
like
reason
Duke.
Jonathan was panicking.
I think Duke has a higher pitch.
I
bark.
like that. Yeah. So we have Duke, and Duke is our featured dog of the week, and you can adopt Duke, and you can save yourself $200. Yes, we pay the adoption fees for this dog, and I'll tell you, he's such a cute little young dog. He is just so sweet. He's, I think that he's 3 years old, between 3 and 7, they said. And he was abandoned, of all places, in South Carolina. And, well, take a look at the video and you'll see what I mean about his Duke's cuteness.
Wow, he's traveled.
Hi, I'm Tara. I work at Big Dog Ranch Rescue. This is Duke. He loves to go swimming. He's good on leash, knows basic commands. He's an absolute sweetheart.
Okay, there's definitely some Basset Hound in this dog. Okay, what does it say here? What's his bio? It says he's just a mix. Hold on, so I got it right here. Okay, those kennel card details. He is a hound mix. Oh, I was right. Hound mixed breed. Okay, so he looks like your everyday dog. He's got like patches on his eyes, brown patches, a white nose. This is important for our listeners. And he's like, but he's got kind of long, and he definitely has some Basset Hound in him.
Maybe, but I don't see it in the ears.
Not in the ears, but there's something in the in his.
Well, let me tell you something, guys. You better have some room for this dog because Duke is going to get pretty big. So have yourself a nice backyard.
How big is Duke?
Some kids that want to chase him. And,
I don't know about that. He's big now.
From the size of him there, he's over 40 pounds.
And they say
he's 3 years old.
He's trainable.
Yeah.
And that also he's very affectionate.
Yeah, he's 3 years old, so he's not getting any bigger unless you feed him a lot.
I just remember a friend of mine had a Basset, and they used to actually have to pull his ears up and use a clothespin to hold his ears off when he was eating, so his ears wouldn't go in his food.
Good Lord.
He might be he might howl
way
too.
down.
Did you say clothespins?
Yeah, a simple clothespin.
Didn't that hurt?
Didn't hurt him, no. He didn't mind because he was interested
we
in
have
his
to
food.
tell people when we talk about the dog of the week who Big Dog Ranch Rescue is and why we do it, because they think we're suddenly going from cars to dogs, but we're trying to help the doggies.
Yep.
We're doing it for a good reason. We're not just babbling about dogs, because we've been involved with Big Dog Ranch Rescue for 10 years. We started in 2014, and we just worked with them. We've helped. We've donated. We're just a sponsor, and so we feature them on the show. We used to do it in the dealership, but we figured this is we got a much bigger audience, and we do it on the show
with
now.
COVID and everything, it just went south, so to speak, and it was a good time. Everybody really enjoyed us bringing dogs into the dealership.
We had the actual dogs. We tried it here.
We did try it here, and we had puppies at the dealership, and boy, was that special.
Puppy day.
It was just an amazing time with the dogs. So my point here is there's so many dogs out there that need adopting. These shelters are just swamped because of everything that's going on right now with the weather. So this Duke, here's an example. Duke was left on the streets of South Carolina. So
and he made his way to Alabama somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alabama, and now here. So
okay.
he's traveled the whhole South to find his forever home.
Yeah.
And forever home.
Well, I'll tell you what. I see here where a group estimated Duke's weight, and I'll tell you right now, I don't want to be part of that group, because who estimates weight from did they say 60 pounds to 99?
Well, that's a group. I don't know why they can't.
They base it as a large dog.
I think
that's quite
without getting any detail, I know they weigh the dogs there. They can give us the exact weight. Yeah. That's a pretty big range.
Yeah, that's a range I don't want to be near. I don't want to be near that range.
Look at that face. He could be a giant cuddler. He's not.
Okay, so fill out that application. Your adoption application before you go in before you take that ride to Big Dog Ranch, because it's a big day out there and there's so much to see. You'll get caught up with all these dogs. I can see the the shine in Stu's eyes right now. He is. I think he's going to tell us he's going on break and he wants to adopt Duke.
No, there's
to
no
go
way.
home and take over for Wally
If you
and
knew what
for
happened,
Oreo.
if you knew what happened this morning, you would know.
That's why I mentioned it. He could be
I
in
won't, because
charge.
he's not gonna let me tell. But my dogs did not cooperate with me this morning. They have no sympathy for me.
Yeah, they were abusing
They
Stu.
ran around me like mocking me this morning. And it wasn't. It was a tough morning.
Tough morning. Okay, they can be just like his. Okay, folks, remember, you can go to Big Dog Ranch, bigdogranchrescue.org, and you can fill out that application, and that will save a whole lot of time. And they do a background check, which is necessary.
Yeah. So if you're a dog abuser,
Yeah.
you're not going to get a dog.
You're not going to get a dog or a cat.
Yeah.
So there you go. Take a look at Duke. Go out to Big Dog Ranch. Take a walk around, or just go out to Puppyland. That's my favorite place, Puppyland. Okay. With all of that said, I think that what we're going to do is go to the mystery shopping report, and our mystery shopping report took us to North Fort Lauderdale. Yes, prepare yourselves. That is Subaru, North Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we didn't really prepare the audience when we started the show about the mystery shopping report, but if you haven't heard this mystery shopping report, we've been doing this for 20 years, is something that you'll see nowhere. It's like, remember the old Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes, when he burst into a company and surprises the CEO? This is what we do. We go into a car dealership, we surprise the car dealership, they don't know who we are, we pretend to buy a car, we go through the whole process, and then we read it live on the air like we're doing right now. So,
Yeah, we surprise them like a couple of days later.
Yeah.
We go in, and then a couple of days later, surprise, you're on the radio.
So here we are, you folks down there in South Florida, Sodom and Gomorrah in North Fort Lauderdale. This is a Subaru dealership, and we went in. Agent Lightning is our undercover agent. We don't use her real name, obviously, and I'm speaking in the first person as if I were the shopper. I arrived in the late afternoon, entered the doors adjacent to the large parking garage where I parked. It was a bit difficult to find, although it was quite visible from I-95. I followed the sales arrows pointing upstairs to the second floor. Halfway up the stairs, I was met by a salesman who was headed down but stopped to say hi, asked if I was looking for anyone in particular that he could help me find. I said I was just stopping by to see about the possibility of getting a new car. I'm sure he smiled at that. He introduced himself as Chris with a gentle handshake, said he'd be happy to help me today. He turned around, headed back upstairs to the showroom floor. It was a big showroom with a grand piano. I love that touch. Grand piano in the center of the showroom. There were a few cars, a few balloons, banners, not much else, very sparse. He asked what type of vehicle I was interested in, and I replied that I was thinking about a smaller SUV. He suggested that we take a look at the Crosstrek, S-T-E-C-K, Crosstrek. Yeah.
Crosstrek.
Oh, Crosstrek.
It's a mouthful.
R there, yeah. At the Crosstreks. We walked to the showroom floor. It was extremely warm. And if you're not around South Florida, it is warm down here. I said, wow, it's hot up here. He replied, yeah, unfortunately, the AC has been out since I started in July. I find that hard to believe, but I mean,
it could be subjective, you know.
Maybe just the garage.
Maybe he's warm everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
He went over the differences between the three models of the Crosstrek, and I decided on the premium, which is the middle trim level, and I love the red. And of course, anyone knows Agent Lightning says we should know she hates red, but
right.
she pretended. Well, when you're a mystery shopper, you got to be a pretender. It was a new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Premium all-wheel drive with an MSRP of $28,600. That's not bad. $28,000. The average MSRP these days is pushing $50. So
I would describe the Crosstrek more of a crossover. You don't get a lot of space in there. It's a small SUV. So
Okay.
it's a baby SUV.
There's so many new names and so many new vehicles. Frankly, even though I'm in the business, I lose track. I had to open the car to find the Monroney label, and for you folks that haven't listened before, this is a South Florida thing. Only in South Florida are they exempt from the federal law requiring that you have a Monroney label.
Right, he's joking, but the whole thing's a joke.
That's tongue-in-cheek. Of course, it still is a federal law, but when we go and shop in fact, most of Florida, but certainly South Florida, the car dealers just don't care that the federal government says it's required by law to leave the sticker, the MSRP Monroney label, on the window. And they just don't do it. And we laugh. I guess we shouldn't be laughing. We should be crying. Ashley Moody should be crying, but she's in Tallahassee, and she doesn't know where South Florida is. So that's part of our problem.
The free state of Florida.
Yeah. So anyway, opened the car to find the Monroney label. It was laminated. Well, it was nice touch. They laminated it. It was illegal to take it off, but they figured as long as we take it off, we'll laminate it.
Because it makes a good, evidence in the court. They go, look, this is Exhibit A.
And I was sitting on the passenger seat. That's a nice place to put your federal document on the passenger seat. The addendum added another $1,870 to the MSRP. So now we've got the Monroney label and another pop, $1,870 on top of the sticker price. He asked what exactly I was looking to do today, and I said, well, if all goes well, I really like the numbers, I'm going to buy the car. He said, great, let's go back to my desk where it's much cooler, and I'll get you some numbers. As we walked, he mentioned that he was heading downstairs to check on a friend who had their car in for service, but he texted them and all seemed to be going well. He asked for my name, phone number, and then said, no one seems to have put you in our system yet. I said, I don't believe I've ever been here before. I mean, and Agent Lightning has been around, but she missed this particular Subaru dealership in northern Fort Lauderdale. He then said, I'm surprised you found us. We're rather hidden off the beaten path, apparently. Chris told me he'd be back in a few minutes after seeing his sales manager to get some numbers for me. This was at 11:01 a.m. Agent Lightning is very precise. 11:01 a.m., he came right back and let me know he was going to run downstairs really fast while his new sales manager got the numbers, but he assured me he'd be right back. At 11:11, I love that. At 11:11, he returned with the numbers, apologizing for the delay, and mentioned that his sales manager was fairly new to the company. He also said he checked on his friend in service. Sounds like a nice guy.
They're all new.
Yeah, the top line, the selling price was MSRP, and that was $28,600, as I said before. They added an NFL, I don't get this, NFL Subaru Advantage package for $1,695. So there's the first of the junk, $1,695. And Starlink, which I thought was the Elon Musk satellite, which I'm having installed today, by the way, at my house.
As we speak, they're on the roof.
Elon Musk is on your roof.
Elon is on the roof.
For $99.95 for the not the real Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink doesn't cost that.
And then there was a $285 for taxable fees. Now, taxable fees, for you folks out there that are new to the show, those are legitimate. The way
No, you got it backwards.
Oh, I got it backwards.
Yeah, taxable VAT.
The taxable are illegitimate, and the non-taxable are legitimate. So they had $285 in taxable fees, so those were the junk fees disguised as government fees. $999 dock fee, well, that's obviously not legitimate. And finally, and this is even more obviously not legitimate, $895.
That one surprised me.
For permaplate.
Usually what happens when I'm looking at the buyer's order sheet brings back. It always starts with the price, a discount, then the add-ons, and the last thing is usually the dealer fee or the e-filing fee. So I'm going, and they get smaller, and then this $895 pops out of the blue. I'm like, whoa, that's ceramic coating.
But look at the junk here, $1695 junk, $99.95 junk, $285 junk, and $999 dock fee, and $895. That's a lot of junk. That's a junkyard right there. They wanted $3,973.50 over MSRP, and that's October. This is October. So that's insane. The multi thousands of dollars or MSRP days are long gone, and we're back down to below MSRP, except for North Fort Lauderdale Subaru.
We haven't seen this since like early 2022, or
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, middle of
mid 2022, things started coming down.
So I borrowed the salesman's pen, wrote down what each item was for. He explained that the $1,695 NFL package is exclusive to this dealership and includes a lifetime powertrain warranty. Maybe Subaru advertises on the NFL. I don't know. I just don't get the NFL connection, but I'm sure there's something there. I tried to look incredulous and responded to his explanations with a few typical Chris asked me where I would like to be as far as the numbers go. I replied, well, I haven't bought a car in a while, but to me, a good deal is closer to the window sticker price out the door rather than almost $8,000. $8,000. Today's what, October the 5th? Unbelievable.
In 2024.
2024. With all the added costs. He said the NFL package and the permaplate are negotiable. And then added, well, basically everything's negotiable.
Hey,
So, right.
that's not really like a mafia truism.
Yeah,
right?
everything.
Right, Nancy?
He confirmed with me that I'd like to be closer to the selling price out the door, and I said yes. Chris said, let me talk to my manager, see what I can do, although I don't think I can get you that low, but I'll try. This is so standard,
Very
typical.
bold.
It's like you memorize this. They don't even change the verbiage. He left for a few minutes and returned with a new sheet that was identical to the first, but with some new info written in ballpoint at the bottom. $32,000 OTD, out the door. Just then my daughter called, and I told Chris I had to leave because she had landed at the airport. And for you new folks, our mystery shopper is a family person, big family, and she takes her family on the mystery shops. Her husband, her son and daughter.
And she buys a lot of cars.
And she buys cars.
For her
So
family.
this is the most legitimate mystery shop you can do because she buys cars.
Yeah.
And in fact, heads up to all you people when Agent Lightning comes in, she might buy a car from you. She bought one last week, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She returns to dealership she's shopped, and
Yeah. She shops for the whole family, shops for the neighborhood. So, hey, you're listening, you need someone to purchase a vehicle from you? Agent Lightning would be the one to ask.
Anyway, the salesman asked me if his sales manager could say a quick hello on our way out because he would be forever grateful. His words. And of course, what that means is it's the rule, especially in South Florida. You got to talk to the manager. If a car salesman lets a customer leave without speaking to a sales manager, that's grounds for dismissal. Salespeople, and many have been fired because they did not let the customer speak to the
a lot of sales
manager.
managers work under extreme amounts of stress because their bosses are on them, and they like to yell. So it's unpleasant to screw up at the salesperson level.
So I felt sorry for the salesman when we stopped by the sales office. The manager came out, thanked me for coming in. Chris let him know I had to leave to pick up my daughter. Manager said he understood and mentioned that when I'm ready to come back in, he tried to get me at an even better price. They always do that too. You haggle, you hassle, and then they say,
You know what it's called? You know what your son used to call it? Your the middle son?
No.
He used to call it sprinkling beadback dust on him.
oh yeah.
So when you give them that last bit of hope, you sprinkle beadback dust, and they'll be back.
My favorite, I think I used this when I was evil, but I would say to the customer when they were leaving, I'd hold up my card and I'd say, now, when you come back, I'm going to write a price here that will be lower than any price you'll ever see at any dealer.
Anywhere in the universe.
And then I say, it's in my pocket. When you come back, I'll show you that price.
Right.
So that image is in.
I'm going to wear this shirt until you come back.
You know how many years Jason's been telling me to get out there and shake
the bushes. Shake the bushes.
It literally, he
Okay,
does
that's a
say that to
shopping
me.
report.
Yeah, oh boy.
Jeffrey Bandes wants to know, the NFL, does that maybe stand for North Fort Lauderdale?
Oh.
Subaru
That's
package.
a smart. That's a very smart guess. I'm saying that's what
Isn't
it
that
is.
interesting?
And just to say that because Scott H. Sr. says on here also, he says, NFL package, does that mean I get the NFL Sunday ticket?
Oh boy, he's talking my language.
You know, honestly, what Earl thought too is like a lot of dealerships do like NFL packages, advertising at the local station, and so maybe that's what it was, and they're just like kind of. But no,
Okay.
that makes a lot more sense towards Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, guys.
But it also has the nuance
Okay,
of the.
Jonathan. You can take over.
Hints. All right.
You can take.
Jonathan?
I'm done with the hand size. You can take over. You see them?
All right, we have votes coming in. Jonathan and Palm Coast, due to a removed Monroney label, the lies about government fees and excessive junk fees. I'm giving this dealership an F. I can't tolerate junk fees that end up in the pocket of the dealership. They would make plenty if they made an honest deal with a customer. That is very true. Bob says, I feel bad for the Subaru dealer. They need the money for the new AC. That's true, but still, it's an F. And Emery says, if the AC is, that rang a bell, touch the nerve. If AC is out in the dealership, which reflects badly on the dealership, makes me wonder what kind of quality work did the service department provide. I think that the owner maybe just likes to keep the thermostat up to keep the electric bill down.
Well, I think they better chop and get that AC fixed because it's playing havoc on that grand piano, baby grand piano.
It's very true. Can't have any. Yeah. Anyway, so she gives him Emery gives him a D. I didn't like them. They're not that. We're still on the curve, so I'll say a C minus. Because it is Lauderdale, man. That's we've seen worse.
C minus.
Okay, we got Scott H. Sr. says F for outrageous fees. Tom Seckel says the addendum plus all the junk fees on the worksheet adds up to $38.74 or 13% of the sales price before sales tax and title.
Holy crap!
Nitrogen on the addendum automatically gives them a D minus. Joseph Kelleher, high junk fees and selling over MSRP gets them an F. T. Cash says D minus. I thought Subaru dealers were different and somewhat honest. I bought a 23 Forester last year, local family-owned dealership in Hanover, Mass. Monroney label still on the window, even $1,000 off the sticker.
Wow, yeah.
Cram 1624 says, get Ashley Moody involved. Have Agent Lightning file a complaint. Now, F, throw out the junk. Johnny Z. Fradley, looks like Ashley Moody's doing pretty good at enforcing that law. F.
Tongue in cheek.
Mark Smith, definitely D minus for me. Sad for South Florida. Tim Gilliland, too many fees and games. NFL an advantage. D minus. Jeffrey Bandes, I'm being generous today. C minus. It's just typical South Florida junk fees, but it wasn't overly outrageous. Tim appreciates life. Too bad. I'm in Boca and thinking of getting my daughter a Subaru Crosstrek. I wonder if Subaru in Coconut Creek is better. Hopefully they are for you.
Okay.
My grade, I'm going to agree with Stu on the C minus.
I'm changing mine to D.
What the D minus then?
I forgot.
I'll give you one better.
Hey, Stu's mood isn't exactly where it should be.
Yeah.
He just went back for a second in his mind. He's going home to those out of control dogs.
Don't call our salespeople that. I'm going to the dealership. They're not out of control
I'm
dogs.
sorry.
They're lovely people.
What's your score? Okay, he was just going to stop there. He'll be at the dealership, everyone, if you need him.
Right.
D
The
minus.
dogs won't be with him.
D minus.
D minus.
Okay.
There we go.
And guess what I'm going to give him?
Yep.
And my heart breaks. I love those commercials. I love the dogs. I love the whole thing. But this is ridiculous. I don't care whether it's in Fort Lauderdale or not. That's Subaru. I mean, they have to stand for their reputation. Okay, I'm starting to perspire. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next week we'll be right back here, 8 a.m. Earl Stewart on Cars. All of us. That's just a warning. So we'll see you right back here next Saturday morning, 8 a.m. You don't want to miss it. You never know what's going to happen.